Sometimes I'm in a position where I have a choice to accept the correction. And that correction, that rod, that is fessing up and taking responsibility for my sin. All right, you guys, so today we're talking about Psalm 23. We're talking about the Good Shepherd. This is a Psalm of David, one of the most famous Psalms. And really short, but it's just so beautiful and there's so much. So let's get right into it. Psalm 23. Just so you guys know, I'm going to read out of the ESV for this one. I know we went to a couple other versions with the CSB, but this one is just so poetic. It's just so beautiful with the ESV, the more literal translation. So, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Okay, this particular psalm is just so expressive. It's so expressive of David as a shepherd. When he was chosen for Israel, his dad didn't even, as king of Israel, his dad didn't even consider him as part of it. He's like, oh, I have another son. He's a shepherd boy. And God's prophet said, send for him. And God chose him. So out of the fullness of his experience, David is praising the Lord. Like he's saying, the Lord is my shepherd. Just as he's a shepherd, not only to the sheep when he was a child, but also to the people as a king. He's saying that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And that should tell us something about our relationship with God and with things of the world. And out of all these things that we have, the Lord is always enough. There is never need for anything more than the Lord and having him. Because in him, you have the fullness of joy. You have everything you could possibly desire in that moment of love and grace and understanding of the Lord's love for you. And David expressed that, but he built upon that. That was the very first verse. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. But then he goes on and he says, he makes me lie down in green pastures. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And this right here is one of my favorite parts. He says, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. How do you interpret that? Well, rod sounds like some discipline. You know, it kind of sounds like maybe the Lord is beating us a little bit, hurting us a little bit, because that's the correction that we need. Sometimes I'm in a position where I have a choice to accept the correction. And that correction, that rod, that is fessing up and taking responsibility for my sin. And so I have this internal dilemma in my life, right? I know if I say this, there's going to be consequences to this sin. So maybe I don't want to say it, but your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Meaning that when you accept the consequences of your sin to that person that you hurt, it's going to eventually comfort you, because it comforted David, and whom the Lord loves, he corrects. And so if you are not being corrected in holiness and righteousness, you are not a child of God. You are an enemy of God, and you don't want God. And I don't know how else I can say this, but if you are not actively trying to have the same integrity that's expressed here in Scripture for yourself, you're not a believer. And we could say there's 1 billion or 2 billion Christians, but you're probably not one. I hate hearing it. I want to say that God's mercy is so much greater than our understanding. But the Lord doesn't play with his word. He's holy. He is sovereign. We're talking about life and death here. So God is serious about sin. So this particular psalm, Psalm 23, I've been trying to figure this psalm out for decades, because I heard this even as an unbeliever. Most people have heard this psalm because it came from Gangsta's Paradise. But In this case, this is a psalm, Psalm 23, which I know you guys will enjoy. Read this psalm in a few different translations. That way it's the best understood it possibly can be. You have a unique one in this one. It's a mysterious psalm. And we're going to talk about another psalm coming up. So just stay tuned. I'll get you guys that one in a bit.